Hello to another episode of Breaking the 20%. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I am Maria, and I'm on a mission to find all the women in Cyprus who broke into tech without following a conventional path, without studying computer science. So today with me, I have a developer, a software developer who didn't study computer science, didn't study electrical engineering, but she did do a bootcamp. We're here to hear her story. Before we begin, I want to say, if you're a woman and you broke into tech, message me. Find me on social media or message us on the podcast channels and let me know. And maybe I would love to, or not maybe, I would love to hear your story. So I am looking for women. Message us. And now we can begin. Sevgi, welcome.
Hello.
So today with me, I have Sevgi Chavushoglu.
Yes.
Sevgi, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
So for everyone who's listening right now, it's Friday afternoon and lots of brain cells have already burned for the day.
Yeah. And my surname is more difficult to pronounce than breaking into tech.
It might have taken me 10 tries to say her surname, but here we are. I did learn it now.
Thank you.
Sevgi, we met maybe a year ago.
I think so.
It was in a bi-communal hackathon.
Yes.
Where we had Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots coming together. Mm-hmm. I think it was held by Microsoft.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And that's where we met.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you find that experience back then? Or not meeting me, the hackathon.
The hackathon was really cool. Also, there were some people from Palestine as well.
Yes.
And it was really, really interesting to see all the communities come together and work on something. The projects that we had, the problems that we had to solve were really interesting as well.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Made some friends. I'm still seeing them, which is great.
Like me, for example. And I remember when we were talking and I assumed you were a developer. Like, I mean, you are a developer, but I just assumed that you came from a traditional background where you studied at the university. And when you told me that, no, you did a bootcamp, I was like, oh, I have to hear her story. I have to listen to the whole journey.
Thank you.
And then we went to a cafe just to get to know each other. And I had two motivations at that time to get to know you more. And one motivation was your journey to become a software developer. And the second motivation was to hear your story as a Turkish Cypriot woman who grew up in the north and understand how was that for you. Do you mind if we start a little bit with that?
Yeah, of course.
And I love that because I think it gives a good basis and context to the influences that you had, the stimuli, challenges. Yeah. So I'm very keen to bring that to the surface and to share it with everyone who's going to listen to us today.
Great idea.
So tell me, where were you born?
I was born in Nicosia in the north of Cyprus. I grew up there my whole life. And then I moved to UK for university.
Okay. And before we go to the university, how was it growing up here?
I mean, Cyprus is amazing. So it was really good. I love that it's like such a small community. So you grow up, you feel like you're growing up in a village, even though it's a city.
Yeah.
And it's a supportive community. It's very good.
As a child growing up, did you know the political situation going on?
Yeah. Not so much of the politics. I mean, as a child, the only reason I would cross the border would be to get McDonald's with my family. But as I grew up more and more, when I was in high school, I started getting into bi-communal events and meeting friends from the other side as well. And my experience has been really good with everyone, most of the people who I met from the south. And it was interesting to see a different perspective because I went to school in the north. My life was in the north. So the only interaction I had with the south was through these communities and activities that I took part in, volunteering in them.
Yeah. Did you have any limitations or challenges because of growing up in the north?
Yes, of course. Because, as you know, it's not recognized by anyone, the country. Not the country. North of Cyprus is not recognized by anyone except Turkey. So if you want to do anything international, you have to either go through the channel of Cyprus or the channel of Turkey. So yeah, you can either represent yourself underneath Turkey or you can represent yourself underneath Republic of Cyprus. Now, to represent yourself underneath Republic of Cyprus is not as easy as it sounds because there is some embargo. So that wasn't always the choice. And to represent yourself under Turkey didn't feel right to me because I'm not seeing myself as a Turkish person from Turkey. I'm Cypriot. So
Yeah.
there were some challenges. But yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. And I remember when I met the first Turkish Cypriot person, I met him in London, and we were talking about the challenges that he had growing up in the north. And it was the first time for me to hear the story of somebody who, growing up as a child and as a teenager, he wanted to be part of competitions. And he told me that every time his school was participating in one of the competitions, they would get cancelled or rejected to join the competitions because of the political situation. So probably because they went through the channel of Cyprus, as you said. And often the rejection would come just a few days before the competition. So he would always feel the rejection and the big walls standing in front of him, like. And I'm realizing when I was listening to him, I realized that, I mean, it's not his fault. It's not something he can control. Yeah. He's born in this situation. And I made a confession to him, and I'm going to do this to you as well now. I was one of the people at university. I remember when we were participating in competitions, I was one of the people who would send an official email complaining about universities from North Cyprus or schools who wanted to participate because of the situation. And I feel strange now after I heard his story and understanding really who I was affecting by doing that. It wasn't sending a message to the government. Yeah. I was just affecting people like me who wanted to have the same opportunities.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're trained to hate each other in this small island. So the education system is designed that way. Everything is designed to make us hate each other, and it's all built on top of blame games. So you're not the first one telling me this. I met a lot of people who thought the same way before meeting some Turkish-speaking Cypriots.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Then, so you did high school and lyceum in the north.
Yeah.
And then university, where did you?
I went to Edinburgh, University of Edinburgh for university. Yeah.
What did you study?
I did biomedical sciences.
Biomedical sciences. So it was biology.
Yeah, it was quite broad biology, and it was research focused. So we could do biomedical sciences, neuroscience, immunology. There were like different paths that we could take within the subject.
What made you choose biomedical sciences?
I loved science since I was a child, and I am a very indecisive person. So when it came to make a decision for university, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. This is too much pressure. I knew I didn't want to study medicine because I didn't feel like that would be the lifestyle that I wanted to take on for the rest of my life. But I loved science. So when I found this subject and the fact that it was quite broad and I could take so many different paths after graduating, it really appealed to me. So I decided taking biomedical sciences.
Okay. And you spent 3 years or 4?
4, yeah, because it was in Scotland. It was 4 years.
Did you also have to learn the Scottish
yes.
accent?
Yes. I thought I knew English when I went to Scotland. But turned out I didn't. Even though I studied it since the age of 6, I didn't know any English.
I was in Edinburgh 2 weeks ago, and oh my God, I loved hearing children speak English.
Yeah,
It was the cutest thing.
exactly.
And sometimes I was like, is this English?
Yeah, I felt like an alien for like 2-3 months, like really 6 months actually.
Yeah.
But I had amazing friends who helped me learn English again in a proper way. So I was
Yeah.
very lucky with the friend group I made when I first arrived to uni. But yeah, the Scottish accent, as much as it's amazing, it takes some time to get used to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And did you have any influences growing up around computer science or programming? Was that like at all in your horizon of options?
Mm-hmm. Not really. I wish it was, but this is a thing that I like look back and think about it. My uncle is a computer scientist, so the only influence I had was him, but I didn't really think about it as a career option because in my head it was like it felt quite antisocial. And I thought it was gonna be that I'm gonna be in an office all the time in front of a computer, and it felt kind of boring. Also, I wasn't very techie, or like I wasn't really good with computers when I was a kid, or like when I was at uni. So I didn't think that could be an option at all. So I didn't look into it at all before going to uni or at uni.
Yeah. And so you finished university. What happens next?
COVID.
Oh,
2020.
Okay.
I graduate and COVID hits. So I'm still in the UK. I didn't want to come back to Cyprus back then. So I was looking for jobs. All the labs were shut down. The jobs I could do were mostly in labs as a research assistant. I didn't want to go straight into a master's. I wanted to work a little bit and explore the area and see what I really wanted to dive deep into. I spent like 6 months trying to find a job. And then I started working in the like biggest COVID lab in the UK in Milton Keynes. I worked there until Boris decided that COVID wasn't a thing and shut down the lab overnight. So.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I was there too. I was in the UK at that time.
Yeah. So I started working in the lab. It was massive. There were like 2,000 people working in the lab. Wow. It was open 24/7.
What were you doing?
Initially, I was doing COVID tests, PCR tests, and then I moved to the department that was testing for new variants. So all the positives that were coming up, we would take them into further tests and see if there were any variants coming up to then inform the government to take action.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. As I said, it was a massive lab, so I was working with many people. Then when I moved to the section looking for the variants, it was a smaller team. So I was working with about like 10, 15 people. Very intense work. We were working shifts. So 1 month would be day shifts, 1 month would be night shifts, 12-hour long shifts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, really
and I remember
interesting job.
I remember they were not paying well. People working in the labs and like, or the doctors. I remember in the UK during the pandemic, there was a time of the day that everybody would go out of in their balconies and start applauding for all the doctors and nurses who were working nonstop for us.
Doctors had it tougher for sure than the lab people, because there wasn't enough people to work. For us, I mean, the pay was okay. The conditions could have been better, but thinking about the conditions back then, like the crisis situation we had, it was okay. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah. And how long did you stay there?
About 2 years. Okay. And then when the lab shut down, we had a month's notice. So I was looking for a new job. Again, I wasn't thinking of coming back to Cyprus. And then I got into work in a medical pharmacy place, MSD.
Okay.
If you know about it. So there I was making chicken vaccinations.
Wow.
Yeah.
All chicken must be vaccinated?
Yeah, the ones that like we eat and the ones that lay eggs, they have to vaccinate it, otherwise they die really quickly. Okay. So we were producing chicken vaccinations, very random.
Do we do this in Cyprus as well?
I think so, yeah. Otherwise they don't live past like a few days.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're living in such close spaces altogether, like in large amounts.
Oh, but if a farmer has 5 chickens,
then no.
Then they have a happy life and they survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's the chicken. Oh, that's such an interesting. I'm so sorry for the people listening. I just find this fascinating. So the chicken that live in factories because they live in such confined spaces. That's why they don't survive and they have to be vaccinated.
Yeah, they're in confined spaces. They're in mass amounts, so there is more chance of
Getting something
passing viruses between each other. And then if one chicken is sick, then all of thousands of chickens will be sick very quickly. So yeah, they get vaccinated.
Wow.
And they get like antibiotics and stuff.
All right. And, and then?
So I was working there, and while I was working there, the job was very basic, and it was the same because it was like a factory, but a scientific one. So we had procedures to follow. I was following the same procedure every day, making the same stuff. It was interesting until I learned it. And once I learned it, I was like, there's nothing new in this. I'm doing the same thing every day. And it started getting quite boring. So I started thinking like, maybe now is the time to do a master's. So I started looking into what I could be interested in. And I was looking at data science masters because I find data interesting in general since I was a kid. I loved looking at receipts and seeing like, or like the data in general, like analyzing tables and charts and stuff. So I was like, let's look into this. It could be useful. You know, I could do something with this. While I was looking for a master's opportunity, I got approached on LinkedIn to take part in a bootcamp to become a software developer. So I thought, yeah.
That's how it started. That's how you became a developer.
Yeah, I didn't find a bootcamp. I wasn't looking for a bootcamp. It happened exactly the same time I was looking for a master's.
So somebody knocked your door.
Exactly.
And you opened the door.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that must be one of the easiest.
Yeah, I was quite lucky.
But I mean, okay. Somebody approaches you and says, hey, we're running this bootcamp. Was this a LinkedIn bootcamp?
They approached me on LinkedIn.
Via LinkedIn.
Yeah. But it was this organization based in Manchester in the UK. And they were basically running these 4 months long boot camps. And they were targeting people with disadvantaged backgrounds. And their aim was to get them to a stage in 4 months so that they could apply for junior positions in companies as a software developer.
Did you have to pay the bootcamp?
No. An interesting thing is the bootcamp was paying me. So because it was for disadvantaged people, they didn't want them to have to work while they're taking the bootcamp. They wanted them to, that their full concentration to be the bootcamp and learning, because it's 4 months. Imagine you have, and it was targeted to people with no coding experience, zero coding experience. So, I mean, to get to a point that you can apply for a junior role, in 4 months, you have to put everything you have in those 4 months. So I think they also acknowledge that doing that while working is not going to work out. Yeah. So they had a budget that was like less than minimum wage, but survivable. Like you would be fine with that money.
In the UK. Maybe not in the central of London.
Yeah, exactly. Also, you didn't have a lot of time to go out while doing the bootcamp, so it was fine. So they were paying us a small budget a month. And yeah, it was very intense. Like the course was like 8 hours a day, but then we would have some tasks to do if you wanted to like really get into it. I was putting like 10, 12 hours a day minimum. Including the weekends and holidays through those 4 months. So wow. It was quite an intense one, but really enjoyable. I loved the time I spent there.
Oh my God. And so you had nothing on your LinkedIn saying, I'm searching for my next thing, no matter the industry?
No.
Nothing.
Nothing. I don't know how they found me. I'm glad they did.
You've never asked them?
No, I didn't. I should go back and ask.
Wow. And was this bootcamp in person or did you do it remotely?
No, it was fully online, which is the reason I moved back to Cyprus. So it was happening during summertime and I didn't love Milton Keynes.
Oh no, so, you were doing this during summer in Cyprus. I mean, that's a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, some days I was working at a restaurant or a cafe by the beach. Dipping in the sea, like in my lunch break.
Of course.
Keep myself awake.
Yes, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, it was a small budget that they were giving us. So it would barely cover my rent and like, enough to survive on like minimal food.
How many were you?
About 20, if I'm not wrong.
20 participants?
Yeah. And it was repeating every 4 months. So the people would change every 4 months. They would recruit new people.
That's so good. Yeah. And what did you learn in those 4 months?
Yeah, so we started with JavaScript, TypeScript.
Pure JavaScript or a framework?
First week or so, we were getting used to using Git and just some examples of JavaScript. And then we moved to React. So most of the program was based in React, using TypeScript mostly. And for the backend, we were using Node.js and some SQL as well for the database.
Okay.
It was mostly front-end focused, but we had some knowledge in the backend as well.
Okay, so it was front-end based, but also
it was full stack, but it was easier to get a front-end job afterwards, I think, with the experience we had. But I mean, if you build some more projects, building on top of what you've learned from the program, you could easily get a full stack or a backend developer job as well afterwards.
What was the hardest thing to get your head around? Git.
Setting up Git on my laptop.
I mean, that's a pain for anyone, I think.
Also, I think it was because like the first thing I had to do and I was struggling so much and I was like, oh my God, I can't even do the first step. Like I'm already behind of the schedule.
How am I going to start this?
Exactly.
And I have 4 months of this?
I remember like crying to my teacher, being like, I can't do this.
And the teacher, no, you can absolutely do this. And inside the teacher is like, oh my God.
No, he was Neil. Shout out to Neil from here. He's an amazing teacher. He was so supportive and he was also like very straightforward. Like he would say what he's thinking. He wouldn't try to make it nice. He would just say it and you will get it.
A proper developer.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And he's such a mastermind. Loved him so much. So yeah, when I was like, I can't do this, he was like, yeah, you can. Like it's not that hard.
Well,
I will help
kudos to Neil. We're going to send you this episode.
Yeah.
And what kind of projects did you get to build during those 4 months?
Yeah. So after a few weeks of like getting into React and Node.js and stuff, we started building projects. They were quite simple ones. Like we had one that we were selecting baby names from a like random selection of baby names that we were supplying the data to them.
Cute.
Yeah. We had one that would bring up like random pictures of cat memes when you click a button. Very cool project.
Yeah, it's also cute.
Exactly. Then we built like landing pages, some more in-depth stuff of like that's including forms and stuff so that it could work with more reactive structures of websites and web apps. Yeah.
During that time, did it ever cross your mind that you miss being in a lab or finding something in going back to science?
Well, I was thinking that I will kind of at some point merge the two together because they are connected. Like tech, you can merge tech with biomed. And I'm hoping I will do it at some point in the future. So I wasn't really scared of not getting back to more sciencey stuff. I was really not scared of not getting back in the lab.
I actually hoped to not get back into the lab.
Yeah, I think I experienced it enough and I was like, maybe this is not the best for me. I mean, it's quite a strict environment. You can't eat. I love food.
I mean, just starting from the basis.
Exactly.
We love food here. We need a place that supports food.
Exactly. I need to snack while I'm working, which I can't do in a lab.
I mean, for others, that would be great because it means they cannot gain those extra kilos.
Yeah, I don't care. So yeah, no, I loved researching stuff. I loved learning new stuff and I loved diving in deep into something specific and like learning the smallest molecule in this like cell that you have in your body. It's fascinating when you go that deep.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the working environment and like, I wanted to become a researcher, and to become a researcher, you had to get into academia, which is a not very nice path in my opinion. It requires a lot of long working hours. You don't really get paid enough for it. You have to be very, very passionate about that topic to actually give all your life into it.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, well, I guess if I want to do science, this is not the way to do it. So
Yeah. So going at the end of the bootcamp, so this was a web development bootcamp, I guess, or full stack bootcamp, and you finished in 4 months. Did you have a graduation day, companies to show your CV or?
Yeah. So the bootcamp was linking us with some of the companies that they could find that were looking for junior developers. So I think we had like 4 or 5 companies that came and showcased their companies, and some of them had open positions that we could apply for, which I did apply for, I think 2 or 3 of them. And then you would go through the interview process. We had support for the interview process as well from the bootcamp, which was amazing. So yeah, we did have some networking opportunities through the bootcamp.
Yeah, 2 days ago, I gave a talk at the University of Cyprus to second grade computer science students. And I was sharing different tips from my journey. And one of the things that we talked a lot about was interviewing and how, like, I shared some tips on how they can go about getting their first job. So if any of them is listening to this episode, what tip do you have for them? How should they prepare for their first interviews?
Okay, first of all, I think interviewing process for tech jobs is horrible.
That's a great start.
So long. There's so many steps. I don't understand why we need those many steps. Like you get a tech test after a tech test, and then you get an interview to discuss your tech test, and then another interview to discuss your personal skills, and another one to meet the team. Like there's 4 or 5 steps to get into a company in this, like, and 4 or 5 is a good number. Like it could be more. There are different types of like interviews that you could get. So it could be a take-home tech test that you build a small application depending on the requirements of the company. It could be on-the-go thing that you share your screen and you're coding with them. I had one that they sent me like lead code questions, style questions.
And lead code is a platform where people can practice
these kind of questions.
Interview questions.
Yeah. I like lead code. It's really nice, and it practices your brain in a really nice way.
I'm gonna make a note to share lead code on the description below for anybody who wants to check it out.
Yeah. I think it's a good one to, like, especially if you're a beginner as well. It's a good one to go and practice some of the questions on there, and it has like different levels of difficulty, so you can start from the easiest one.
Was there a tip you've learned from the bootcamp to make your application stand out?
Well, in terms of the like technical interviews, the best tip I got was explain your code. So they also taught us how to explain our code in a meaningful way. So especially if it's one of those interviews that you're typing while and someone is watching over you, Neil was like, always talk what you're thinking so they can understand your thinking process. So even if you don't know the best answer to that solution, to that question, if your thinking process is correct, then you're more likely to get hired. So showing your thinking process through the code is very important, I think. Some of the interviews is like you get a take-home test and then you have another interview to talk about your code, which is, again, it's like, I guess it's the best way to understand if you actually written the code yourself, as well as if you're understanding what you're writing. Because there's so many cases that I've seen in the workplace as well that people write code, but they don't really understand the root of that code, what it actually does and why it does that. So while learning as well, like if you're writing something and you're not 100% sure what that line of code does exactly and why it does it that way, then you should go and find out before moving on to the next step.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For the ones who are watching and they find this interesting, useful. And what happened after the interviews? Did you join one of those companies?
No, I got rejected. I kept applying to more companies. And then I met...
Can you tell me about the rejection? That's another thing that we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah. I mean...
Did they say why? Or-
Yeah, it was actually, well, they don't always say why. They don't even get you a rejection email sometimes. But yeah, this one
that's the ghosting.
Yeah.
Like the companies ghost you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, these ones that applied through the bootcamp, they did get back to us because I thought they had a relationship with the bootcamp as well.
Yeah.
So they couldn't ghost us, thankfully.
Yeah.
And we did get some feedback, all of us who did get rejected or did get in as well. We all got feedback, which was amazing. Like working on, like, I hope everyone can get a feedback from their rejections because it's so useful. But then, yeah, I kept applying. I kept applying to other jobs. I've done probably hundreds of applications.
Do you mind sharing a couple of examples of the kind of feedback they give? Like what things needed improving?
Yeah, it was mostly because I didn't have enough experience on a technology that they were using, or it was because, it was mostly like technical limitations, the feedbacks I got, that I didn't have enough experience or...
which was expected because, hey, 4 months.
4 months, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, also other thing I did while I was applying for bootcamps was keep working on my like side projects so I could build my portfolio and have more code to show to people that I can write code. Because, I mean, there isn't any other way to prove. I have to show them. Something physical. I don't have a degree to show them. So,
of course.
Yeah. And then I came across a friend at a coffee shop, an old high school friend.
In Cyprus?
Yeah, in Cyprus. But by the way, I was applying for jobs only in the UK. So I was still trying to go back to UK.
Not settled to stay in Cyprus.
No, I left my car. I put all my stuff in my car and left my car with a friend in the UK. I was like, I'm coming back. Max 6 months. Give me 6 months. I will be back.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyway, I met a friend in a coffee shop and I knew he was working as a software the project manager. And I was telling him that I'm in a boot camp and he was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like he was very excited about it. And he was like, well, the company I'm working for as a project manager, they're looking for someone. Would you be interested? I was like, well, I'm not thinking about staying in Cyprus, but it would be a great experience. So yeah, why not?
Since somebody knocked my door, I should again just open it.
Exactly.
I see the pattern here.
Don't turn back your luck. So yeah, I said yes to it. I got to the interview. It was quite a chill one because I knew the guy. I didn't know the owner of the company, but we met and it was cool vibes. I got a take-home test again. They looked at my code, liked it. They called me back. I started working there as a junior front-end developer.
And you haven't left Cyprus since then?
Ah, yes.
Did you get your stuff from the car?
I did, but it took like a year. After a year, I called my friend. I was like, I think I'm not coming back soon, so I should come and get my stuff. And she was like, yeah, I thought so.
So nobody stole the stuff from the car?
No.
Nobody broke the car?
No, I mean, it was a Toyota Yaris, so I don't think anyone was interested.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about the first year of working as a software developer for the first time in a company. What were the challenges? What were the surprises?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was a small startup, so it had startup challenges, which were amazing for me to grow. I grew so much in such small time.
What are startup challenges for people?
Fast-paced, crazy-paced. You develop features after features. You don't have time to resolve bugs. It's very dynamic. We were working on an end product, but it wasn't released yet. So there were a lot of changes coming. Like you would develop something and it will need a change. It will need a new feature. So it was very fast paced.
That's actually a hard one for somebody who's just starting as a developer to work in a fast paced environment in a startup where the expectation of moving fast is quite high.
Yeah. So I had to learn really fast. But the people I was working with were great. I had really good support from them. They were showing me stuff. They were explaining me stuff. Even though we didn't have a lot of time, they would put the time to explain me how the code works. we were really communicating really well with we had 2 teams, back end and front end. We were communicating really well. So I think, the communication was really good. I think that's the reason why we managed to put out a product at the end of the day really quickly.
How big was the team?
Like 6, 7 people.
Okay. Okay. And were the kind of the coding challenges that you were solving, were they at a similar level as the ones from the bootcamp, or were they from the right beginning way bigger than what you saw before?
I mean, first few tasks that they gave me were easy ones. I think they didn't want to scare me off straight away. Thank you. But after that, like, I think within a month, I was doing some like a lot harder stuff than I did in a bootcamp. But because of the way they taught us React, and also we were using in React in my first job as well, because of the way they taught us, it was really easy for me to understand how it works and to learn new stuff. Like, I was learning new stuff really fast because my initial understanding of the code was really good. So if you know the reasoning behind your code, as I said previously, it's easier to build on top of it. So even though the challenges were quite difficult and complicated, there were some really complicated stuff we were doing, like really reactive, like tables and stuff. It was okay. Yeah. And like, if you know how to break up the big problem into smaller tasks, then every task kind of becomes around the same level. Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I think actually that's the key. Yeah. If you can break down a big problem into small ones, exactly, then the small ones are manageable. Exactly. Because that's what we've learned to solve. Yeah. Yeah. Did you change company since then?
I did. I changed a lot.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So after about a year in this company, I decided to move on, and I got into another startup, this time in the south. Again, this time it's even a smaller team of like 3-4 people, and they had 2 different projects there, and the company unfortunately went down like 6 months after I joined them. Okay.
What made you leave the first company?
Mostly the working style. We had to work really long hours because it was a startup. We were expected to put in work on the weekends as well, and I started feeling quite burnt out. So I was like, okay, I think it's time to move on. Yeah.
You started feeling comfortable with the code as well, and your abilities to.
Yeah, exactly. I had like, thanks to them, like I had amazing experience. As I said, I don't think I would have learned as much in a bigger company in a year. Like, it would probably take me 3 years to learn the same knowledge. Yeah. Because I was working a lot more, first of all, and also we were doing a lot more in a such smaller, shorter time. Yeah. But yeah, the working style wasn't really suitable for me, so I decided to move on. Yeah, and then the other startup, I didn't stay there for very long. I couldn't, unfortunately, because the startup went down. Stayed there for like 5-6 months. Just when I was starting to get into the work, they decided to close up.
Did you know that there were such challenges?
No, I didn't know. I wish I did. It wasn't communicated. I knew like a month prior to getting laid.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But it was fine. Then I went traveling for 2 months.
As one should. Yeah. As one should. Where did you go?
South America.
South America? Yeah. Where?
Everywhere. Kind of Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, Colombia, Peru.
That's so awesome.
It was really good experience.
You got rejuvenated.
Exactly. I was planning to do it while I was working. So I did communicate with my job, with my boss. I was like, if I work like 3 days a week or 2 days a week for like 2 months, is it okay? And he did say it's okay, like we can manage. But I didn't have to work while I was traveling at the end because the company closed down.
And that's even better.
Yeah, exactly. Looking back at it now, I don't think I could have done it while working. It was quite an intense traveling.
Yeah, I had a few developers in the past who wanted to do a similar setup. Yeah. Or I had one developer who went to Australia and the time zone was completely the opposite. Yeah. And it was such a struggle. And I remember it worked only because, or I approved this to happen only because he was senior enough that he could be independent, and we had work that needed to be done, and it wasn't on the critical path. Okay. So they could work on it independently, wait for a day for his code to be reviewed and approved, and it wouldn't block anything critical. Yeah. So it only worked because of that. Yeah. But usually it's not something that I would be able to say, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, working while traveling, I think it's doable if your travel schedule is not so packed. I was trying to hit so many countries in such a short time. I was like traveling so fast as well. Yeah. But if you're going to a place and staying there for a month, then actually starting to live there, then you could work while traveling as well. But you have to go slow. Yeah. But yeah, the time zone, the difference, it's something really hard to manage.
And how was, and I guess I assume you got another job after you came back from traveling?
I came back and then I went to the hackathon once I was back.
Oh, yes, you were looking for a job back then. Yes.
So I was telling...
Now it came all back.
Exactly. Yeah, I was looking for a job. I was applying. I got into somewhere in the UK as a software developer just like a few days before the hackathon. No, not a few days. After the hackathon.
After the hackathon.
Yeah. So I got into this job after the hackathon in the UK. And then I was telling Burak at the hackathon that I'm looking for a job. You know, if you hear something, just let me know. I was telling everyone, to be fair.
Burak was one of the organizers of the hackathon. Because it was hosted at Cyprus, you know. Yeah.
So I was telling everyone that I'm looking for a job. I mean, it was one of the reasons that I went to the hackathon because I was looking for a job.
Another tip for developers who might be looking for a job, go to hackathons.
Exactly. Go network. I mean, I found most of my jobs through networking. Yeah. So a few weeks after, he approached me and he was saying there is this company looking for someone. He sent me the job description. If you're interested, let me know. He put me into contact with them. And I got in through the network. This was a research company, again, and a small one. They had really interesting projects. They were doing like 5-6 EU granted projects. It was more scientific than my previous ones because it's a research-based company. I did some really interesting projects there. I really enjoyed my time there as well. And then again, I got my door knocked while I was working there. I wasn't looking for other jobs. And I got approached again on LinkedIn about a more senior position as a front-end developer in a bigger company. And I wasn't looking for a job, but I was like, I'll go through the interview process just for the experience because I've never interviewed for a mid-level senior position. So I was interested in to see what kind of interview process was going to be like. And also I did an interview for a bigger company. All the companies that I worked for before was max 10 people. Yeah. So I was going through the process, again, a long one. And each step, I was like, the first step was meeting the HR, like having a small talk with them. And then I had to meet the team, and then I had like a half technical, half personal interview, chatting, a take-home test, another interview about the take-home test, another interview to meet the team. And then like each step, I was passing them. I was like, okay, they were like, you're accepted to the next one. I was like, okay, interesting. Okay. I did not expect to get it. And at the end I got it, and it was a really good offer. So even though I was not looking to move on, I was very happy with what I had. A better opportunity came up.
And it was better because it was a better salary, I will assume.
Yeah, it was better salary, better benefits. It was a bigger company, is not... A bigger company doesn't mean it's a better option. But for me, I wanted to experience working in a bigger company because since I started in this sector, I was working for startups. So I really wanted to see how it would be like if 30 people worked on the same code base. Like that to me was insane, even though 30 people is not a lot. There are much bigger companies. But yeah, for me, it was like 5 people working on the same code base, and it was manageable. Like,
So how is it when you have 30 people working in the code base? Can you compare it now?
Yes.
It's been a few months.
Yeah, it's been a few months. Well, you need a lot of planning. The amount of planning I saw that goes into it, I was like, wow. Thankfully, our product managers are very, very good. So it's a really good company in terms of planning the sprints and planning the workload. We all we do this thing that like weekly meetings that we have tasks and we all rate how long it's going to take, how many story points it's going to be. And I was like, what is a story point? Apparently it's something that you measure the difficulty of the task and how much it will take. All these new terms, I didn't know, the sprint, the story points.
So working in an agile, with agile methodologies.
Yeah, like we were using Jira and stuff in my previous companies as well, but it was just we would have tasks cards and we would just to see
move them
where
around.
it's going. Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't done in a proper way. Working in more agile style, it's interesting. It's nice.
If I'm not mistaken, you work remotely now?
No, I'm going in. Yeah, it's hybrid. Yeah. There is an office. I go in 3 days and work from home 2 days. Yeah.
Okay. And everybody's in the office, or I think half of the team is remote?
Yeah, we have offices. It's an international company, so we have offices all around the world. But yeah, the people who are in Cyprus, we go to the Cyprus offices. Like everyone who is working for the company is working near one of the offices in where we have offices.
Got it. And your team is all based in Cyprus, so you do meet up.
The developer team, most of them are in Switzerland.
Okay.
And some of us are in Cyprus, but we do travel back and forward like a few times a year to actually meet in person as well.
Nice.
But yeah, the people working in Cyprus, I do meet them.
So having worked in 3-4 different companies, what would you say are the good signs that people should look for when they apply for a job?
Really good question. I think you should be able to get good and bad feedback. Constructive and good feedback.
During the interview, you mean?
Okay, you're asking about the interview stage. I was like, okay.
Both.
Okay, let's start with the interview stage. With the interview stage, the thing I was looking for is the people skills that people had that I was going to work with. And you can kind of tell that within the 15 minutes you talk to that person. If you are talking to that person and you can't imagine them as your boss, then I would say don't do it. It will probably be toxic.
Oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
When we are hiring, when I was working in my previous jobs and I was a hiring manager and I had developers also interviewing, and then we would have a sync call to decide whether we're going to offer the job to the candidate. The question I would ask them was, would you like to work with this person? Do you want them in your team?
Yeah.
So sometimes they would say very positive things about the candidate. And when I ask them, would you want them to be in your team? They would say, maybe if another team wants them, it's okay. That was my sign that, something is off. So it's actually...
It's both ways.
It's nice to hear that the same question is in your mind as a candidate.
Yeah, exactly. Like I had this really strange interview with another startup, and I was talking to the owner of the company and he was talking to me like a robot. And I was like, this is not vibing. This is not doing it. I don't think we could work together. And it doesn't mean that person is not good. It's a personal thing. Like it maybe is not good for me or she's not good for me, but someone else will be. Obviously there will be someone who's clicking with them. Yeah. So I think like you have to feel like you can work with them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say ask clever questions and don't be scared to ask questions. Like whatever, I think the questions depends on what values you have. So think about your values, think about what is important to you day to day working in that company. So I always ask what's this going to be like working day to day in that company? Like what I'm going to do when I arrive to the office. do I have time to get a coffee and chat with my colleagues? Or is it more like, go, 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 like you just do your work as a robot? Or what the dynamics is within the company. How are the people communicating already who's already working there? I think about your values and think about some clever questions to ask them about your values. Obviously, it changes depending on what each person's values are. Like, everyone is looking for different stuff in their work life.
Just to recap, you said 3 things. One is, do I want to work with these people? I'm looking at I took notes. The second was, what are my values? And ask questions around your values to see if they have similar values to you. Yeah. And the third one is, how does it look like to work there? Yeah. Do I have time to do it? To get coffee, or how do people communicate? Yeah. What's the vibe inside?
Exactly. I mean, that's an important thing for me, to socialize with the people working for me, but maybe it's not for everyone.
And to clarify, socialize doesn't mean becoming best friends and going out for drinks. Yeah. It's really being able to communicate in a casual and very comfortable way, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And before, you mentioned one of the good signals when working in a company is when they give you both positive and constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you don't get any positive feedback, then you don't feel satisfied with the job that you're doing, even if it is good. And you get demotivated after a point. I mean, we're all humans. We want some good feedback. If I'm doing something well, I want to know. And if I'm doing something not very well, I still do need to know. Yeah. If you don't get any constructive feedback, then you don't know what you're doing wrong, what you could improve on. It's not even like what you're doing wrong, what you could improve on. There's always improvements that you can do to get better at what you're doing. So feedback I think is crucial.
Any other signal? Or red flags? What were the red flags, either during the interview or when you joined? I mean, before, you mentioned working fast pace, or working extra hours consistently.
Yes, that's a red flag.
That's it's red as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was my first job in this industry. I was really keen to learn. Sometimes I was offering to do overtime, and after a point, it got to a point that I was getting taken advantage of. Doing that, and it was being forced on us to do it without getting really compensated for it. So I would say, separate your work and life. Do have a balance. Like, I know a lot of developers, I think it's a norm in this industry that you work a lot more than you should. Like, you stumble across a bug and you spend the night to resolve it, even though it's not in your working hours.
Did you get to the point where you sleep and you dream of your codes?
Oh my God. The best dreams would be when I got the solution.
And then you wake up and you're like, oh,
I need to write down. I forget.
Have you ever actually woke up and went to the laptop to write down?
I did, especially at the beginning. Like, when I was working in the bootcamp, I was like, when I got stuck with a bug, I would either go for a walk or go for a swim. And then it was like, I would go to the pool to swim, and then it will come to my mind, I'll leave straight away, go back to before I forget the solution.
Repeat in your mind. It's this answer, it's this answer.
Exactly. But when you're stuck, it's a good idea to shut down your laptop and go for a walk. The answer will come and find you.
Yeah. Sevgi, as being a woman in this industry where we don't have a lot of women, unfortunately, how did you experience that?
Yeah.
Did you ever experience discrimination being part of a team? Yeah, where the majority were men, probably. I'm just assuming now, but what was your experience?
Yeah. Discrimination, not so much. I was lucky about it, I think. Also, I think in my day-to-day life as well, I am good at communicating with both genders. So it wasn't really so hard for me to work in an all-male office. Although there were sometimes chats that I was like, can we please stop? This is too manly.
For example?
I don't know, jokes and stuff. Like, I'm like, come on, can we please move on? I did work with some people that didn't share the same values as me, in terms of like being a feminist and being equal, having equal opportunities and stuff. they weren't reflecting it to the workspace, thankfully. But when we did have discussion,
They were not reflecting it.
They were not. There has been few incidences, but not major ones. I could like work around it. At first, I was trying to challenge them, but then I learned if the person in front of you is not open to discussion, then I think there is no point spending your energy on that. So if you can find a way, if you do face discrimination, I hope you don't, but it's very possible because it's very men focused. Yeah, there's a lot of men in this industry.
The thing is, I don't even like discrimination, like gender discrimination is not always obvious.
Yes.
And the thing is, now I'm asking an obvious question where it has an obvious answer, but often the discrimination happens in a very subtle way.
And sometimes it happened to me and I didn't even notice it when it happened. And then it happened a few more times and I was like, okay, like my job is getting looked down, my work is getting looked down on.
Do you have an example? Like,
yeah, like I would get a task and I would do it, and then this person would look down on my code, or like.
How do you experience like being looked down?
At first, because also I was inexperienced, I thought, there is a problem with my code. So I was like, I would go back and look at it and I'm like, okay. And then he wouldn't really be giving me constructive feedback, or he wouldn't really be open to explain it to me why it was that way, why it was bad, how I could improve it. So after it happened a few more times, I started to ignore it. I did try to chat to him, but again, he wasn't really open to discussion. And he wasn't really open to thinking about changing his opinions in general, not just work. So after trying and failing, I was like, okay, I have to work with this person. I will have to put some boundaries. I should not let my work to get looked down on. And once I put some boundaries, it worked. I think if you're getting discriminated, you should... Also, I hope you have channels in your work that you can communicate that, maybe HR and stuff, who would take that into consideration, because the companies I was working for, they were really small. We didn't have HR. So I didn't really have that many channels to communicate that. But yeah, put some boundaries. Be really clear. If you're facing discrimination, I mean, first of all, you should become aware of it. And then don't put it on yourself as if it was your fault that you're facing discrimination,
which women tend to do
a lot. Yeah, exactly. So I think look at it from a distance and actually think about it in a fair way. Like, is the act that you're getting exposed to, is it fair on you or is it not? Also, like getting into tech by not studying it, I already had like a small imposter syndrome, I guess.
I mean, well done if it was small.
Yeah, like I was already doubting myself on my work. So getting that on top of it was challenging, yeah. But I think I noticed it very early on and I did put measures to combat it. So it was fine.
You said to put boundaries. How does one
I think you should communicate.
That?
Like if you do get an act towards you that you're not happy with, and it doesn't have to be discrimination, it could be something else in the workplace as well. You should communicate that in a proper way and tell that person, hello person, I am not happy with what you told me or what you did the other day. Can you please not repeat it? If they're open to discussion, discuss it, but don't discuss it in a way to try and persuade them, to try and convince them that your thinking is right. It's more of a discussion to understand each other. And I mean, you don't have to find a solution. I think if they understand that they hurt you and the other person, and you understand that you got hurt, and just acknowledging it is enough. And if the act doesn't get repeated, hopefully it won't, then happy.
Yeah. Can I share an example?
Yeah, of course.
Just because we talk about this and I want to be... I'm asking questions to make it as practical as possible for anyone listening who might be experiencing a subtle form of discrimination at work. I once had a woman engineer in my team. I was managing all the developers in the team, and she came to me telling me that she often shares an opinion her male colleagues wouldn't log it, that she just communicated this opinion. And then another man developer would repeat her opinion and everybody would agree with him and take the credit. And it happened a couple of times and she came to me upset about this. And she wanted to work out how to tackle this, how to confront them. And so we discussed it a little bit and she did go and spoke with every person on one-on-one and explained the couple of examples that this happened and how that made her feel. And the guys were very, bless them, they were very open. They were active listeners, open to make the collaboration better. They wanted to have a safe, inclusive team. And they realized that they understood the feedback and they accepted it. And then they were very mindful. They changed. Yeah. They were mindful of listening better in the team meetings. And I think it was one of the examples that I remember very vividly because my woman engineer took her space. She put the boundaries, she communicated, and she stood her ground. Yeah. And that benefited her. Yeah. Her and the whole team.
Exactly. Right? Whole team became better listeners, which is an amazing thing.
And the whole company, because it meant that she didn't leave the company, which usually that's what happens when companies don't care about creating an inclusive environment. If the companies don't invest at all, they don't think about how to make the environment better for the minorities, the minoritized groups. That's when the minoritized groups become even smaller and then they disappear.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not an easy thing to do, to talk about your feelings and to say that you're not happy about something, because you might lose your job by saying that. If you're not in an understanding company, you might get more discrimination by saying that. But also, you might solve the problem. And if the problem gets worse, then you probably shouldn't be there and you deserve working in somewhere a lot better than you do now.
Yeah. Changing topic. You worked a little bit in labs before doing the bootcamp and becoming an engineer. Were there any transferable skills that you've developed while working in the laboratories that then were a benefit for you working as a software developer?
Yeah, of course. I think one of them was working as a team. So because especially when I was working in the COVID lab, it was very fast paced and we were working for the same product as well at the end of the day in a small team. As a small team. So communication within the team. And again, these things that we talk about, putting boundaries, communicating your needs, working towards the same target, but we're all doing different parts of the jobs. And then like being able to put that all together in one final product is very important. This is basically what we do in software development. How to manage also crises. Like in software development, you get bugs on production. In labs, there are things that happens that are very bad, sometimes worse than bugs. So working in crisis moments as a team all together and not panic about it and still be able to think logically of how you can resolve that problem, I think it's an incredible soft skill that I transferred into software development.
Did you see that being a benefit in comparison to other developers? Yeah. Can you see the difference between developers who didn't do any other job than...
I think like all the developers I met who have transferred from a different background have more soft skills because they've been exposed to different working environments and different lives, I guess. Because, I guess if you're studying this as well, it's kind of a similar environment to working as a software developer. I'm guessing, I don't know. I might be wrong. But like studying biomedical sciences, it was very different to studying computer science. The teamwork, the way we were reading and writing essays and like the way we were thinking about things were different to a software developer course. So I think you're bringing in a lot more soft skills than a person would have had if they did do computer science or something related to that subject at university and they got straight into tech.
Yeah.
Because you have more variety of experience, I guess. So you learn different things to them.
Yeah.
So, and it is very powerful to bring that into a team as well, because most of the time that's what the team is lacking, because they're all coming from the same background and they don't have those soft skills all the time.
Preach.
Yes. When I met you at the hackathon, I was like, someone who can actually communicate.
Oh man. Thank you. But communication is the number one problem.
Yes.
In teams, not only in tech, in tech, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
In tech teams, very obvious. But it's the number one problem anywhere.
Yeah.
In relationships,
Yes.
in families, in the class, anywhere between people. It's the number one problem. And people don't get trained on how to communicate better.
Yeah, I agree. We should put it as a lesson in school.
Well, it's one of my training seminars. I wasn't planning to do this stage, but if you want to get better at communication and you work in tech, then reach out.
Hit Maria up.
2 days ago, a friend of mine messaged me, and they want to get into tech, and they asked me what's the best way for them to begin learning coding. And I thought to ask you, what would you recommend them to do?
I think if they can find a bootcamp or maybe a community, it can be online and it could be something that's not paid. There's a lot of channels that people are learning the same thing at the same time. It would be really great to have the support of a group. It doesn't have to be a teacher, a support of a group of people doing the same thing, going through the same pain as you do. So, I mean, there's Discord channels, there's Slack channels, there's like a ton of resources on the internet that you could take a course with some people. It could be online. It doesn't have to be face-to-face, that you have that support from the people.
Anyone that pops up on top of your mind?
Not right now. But
for courses, I know Coursera and Udemy.
Yeah. There are, I think through those courses, there are usually Discord channels as well.
For people who are doing them.
Yeah, there are few about women in tech. I can't remember the names, but I can find them and let you know, so you can link it.
Well, in this case, my friend, it's a guy. But
Yeah. So find people, or it doesn't have to be channels. I mean, you could find a friend who wants to do the same thing and do it together.
I think that's harder.
Yeah, probably.
It's more probable to find somebody from another part of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the reason I'm saying that is because you will get stuck a lot, especially at the beginning. And you will want to give up. But if you have people doing that same thing with you, you feel like you have to do it. Like you feel more motivated to give up. So I think that's the only support I'm talking about. It doesn't mean you have to share technical skills. It doesn't mean they have to teach you how to do something or you have to teach them how to do something. But if you do, that's also a positive. But like just having that support of like that you're doing this together is really good, I think. Also like internet, I mean, there's a lot of data stuff out there that you can start from. Another thing to keep motivated is, I think of a small project that you think is cool and try to do that while learning the tech that you want to learn. Something, it doesn't have to be anything complicated. It could be something really silly. Like, I don't know, my friend, for example, did this card game, the memory card game, and she was really into art. So she put all the like artworks that she loves, and like it was like clicking on cards, flipping them two at a time and finding matching ones.
Nice.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Nothing too technical, but you learn a lot, especially if you're a beginner, you learn a lot doing that. So find just a really tiny small project that you think would be fun to work on. So it doesn't feel like a job to do, but it feels like a hobby to do.
Yeah. Nice. We're getting close to the end. Sad. But I have one last question for you.
Sure.
Do you have a project you're working on right now that really excites you, or do you have something in mind that really excites you and you want to get into?
Yeah. As I mentioned at the beginning, when I got into tech, I was hoping to merge health science and tech together. And like past few years, I've noticed I want to do something about women health. I am still thinking what kind of product I can do, especially I think there's a lot of undereducation about menopause. Like even women going through menopause don't know about it. So I want to do something about that and help to educate them, or maybe create a platform that they can share their experiences, or maybe create a product that they can navigate through that change in that massive change that's happening in their bodies. So yeah, I'm like starting on developing some ideas. Nothing solid yet, but
That's
hopefully
cool.
soon.
There is a community that works on. There's a community about spreading awareness for women with menopause. I think in Cyprus.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
I don't remember their name, but maybe we should link them up with this episode. If people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Yeah, I've got LinkedIn, Instagram. It's for Instagram is Sevgi_Chavushoglu. I mean, my surname is very hard, so
I'm gonna share it. Exactly. I'm gonna share it on the description. Follow the links in the description of the podcast.
Yeah, and yeah, if you have any questions about how to break into tech, or if you want to chat, just hit me up. I'll be very happy to meet you all.
Well, Sevgi, thank you for sharing your story so openly. I'm sure it's gonna inspire other people as well to take on the paths that are closer to their heart and just be courageous and try something out. And I think the biggest lesson from this episode, from this interview, is really when somebody's knocking your door, just open it and have a conversation at least.
Exactly.
Don't keep the door closed and say, nope, not interested. Like just listen to the other person's story and maybe something comes out of it.
Exactly. You never know. Keep networking and you will get there.
And before we close, we should thank the people who are making this episode possible. This is a Black Lemon production, and we are in the wonderful space of Black Lemon. We shall thank Chrysanthi Dimitriou and Sofia Kafkalia for editing, Tassos Konstantinou being the Swiss Army man of the studio, Konstantinos Psilidis for the coordination, and Andreas Philachtou for the production. And Sevgi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and for amazing questions.
Bye.
Bye-bye.